Welcome back to the office, folks. We have an updated office tour. We got some new bucks. We have some new faces that we want to share with you. And to kick it off, we're going to look at this Kansas Giant. This is a deer that I killed last year in Kansas on a piece of weehaw. Pretty incredible hunt. The day before, I actually went in, found a bed, bunch of big sign. While I was in the bed, I walked the exit trail, and that exit trail led me to kind of this rut funnel, this pinch where I had seen some deer just prior to that. So set up 70 yards from his bed, had to sit there for almost, I will call it a day and a half, but I shot this deer at 5 yards on the ground, 70 yards from his bed. Super, super clean recovery. Shot through both shoulders. Just an absolute giant. That whole encounter was probably 5 minutes long, and there was a point where that deer was feet away from me. I actually had to draw on this deer twice. We had a cedar tree between us, and he knew something was up, but he didn't know what. But I had to let my bow down, get to my knees, draw for a second time, and when that deer realized something was not quite right, he turned around and went to go back to his bed, shot him through a window, through a cedar tree this big at 5 yards. Just a incredible Kansas 170-inch deer, man. Just unbelievable. Probably never happen again. So let's go check out what Cameron has going on.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back. You guys have already seen this office, but I do have a couple new additions. We'll start over here. This here is my Ohio buck this year. This is actually the second buck that I killed last year. So I had my best season ever, and this is just a nice 7-point shot in Ohio, November 10th. This buck here is a testament to annual trail camera data. Got a picture of him on November 9th on a cell cam in the morning. November 10th, went in and had a great hunt, had an opportunity at this deer. Went back and checked the previous year's trail camera data. And sure enough, November 9th last year, he showed up on the same exact trail. So that's a testament to annual trail camera data. If you don't believe it, I suggest you pay attention to it. So killed him November 10th. This is actually a turkey I killed in West Virginia with a couple good buddies, Trey Kearns and Brandon Mazzora. And previous Cribs guest, Tanner Burns from Full Draw Taxidermy, he is the one that mounted this bird. And this is actually Dave Owens' cape on this turkey. So my cape got ruined, and Dave had an extra cape. So this is actually Dave Owens' cape on this turkey, which is pretty neat. If you follow me into the studio, I have my biggest buck to date mounted in here from North Dakota. So this here is my best buck to date. This was an early season hunt in North Dakota. So tried to go out there and get a velvet buck, but came away with a beautiful 10-point. Shot him on the second day of the season. The first 3 nights before the season, I just spent time behind the glass, glassing him up. Went in one night on the ground, got busted. The next night went in with the saddle, and he came into 40 yards. It's pretty funny. I draw my bow back on him first, try to pull my face mask down, and as I do that, I didn't have enough tension on the bow. The bow jumps on me. Deer just looks up, like doesn't have a care in the world, and I shoot him at 40 yards. So this is my biggest buck to date in North Dakota last year. Scored 144 inches. So that was my best year to date in the whitetail woods. And let's go see what Jase has going on.
Hey guys, how's it going? My name's Jase. You may recognize me before as I've been on a previous episode of Whitetail Cribs. I'm originally from southern Indiana. Episode was with my dad and I. As you can see here, you saw this deer. He's a gross 190-inch typical from Indiana, netted 182. This is a 153-inch typical as well. I killed in Indiana. Like I said, you guys already saw those deer in a previous episode. So I'm going to talk about my Indiana buck from last year. Went home for opening weekend of gun season. Have a particular piece, 100-acre farm or so, 40-acre section of woods that we always set up the first weekend of gun. It's just a really good rut funnel. Opening morning was really slow. Actually, I only saw like one doe, which was pretty unusual for that area and that time of the year. And then that evening I sat in the same spot, and he was actually the only deer I saw. Came through about 45 minutes before dark, cruising, and shot him. He only ran about 40 yards and expired. I scored him about 135. And if you come in the office, I'll show you. This buck right here is actually my first archery buck I killed here in Ohio this last year. Not giant, but a really good deer. I actually had a picture of him the night before on a cell camera, and Went in the following evening, and he came through about 70 yards. I grunted at him. He came right in about 6 yards, and I shot him. Ran about 50 yards and expired. So it was a pretty cool hunt, pretty awesome experience for my first archery deer, especially since I missed a buck. One of my target bucks September 30th, so pretty early in the season. I hit a branch and shot low, so that was a little discouraging. So pretty cool to finally harvest this one. Now I'll take you over to Jared, our customer service rep, and we'll see what he has in his office.
Hey guys, I'm Jared. I'm the customer service rep here at Exodus. If you're ever sending us emails or calling the phone, I'm the one you get. So to start out with some of my stuff here, got a couple of smaller bucks I've harvested over the years, a couple of spikes. Anyway, going over this way, I got a photo here that's pretty important to me. This is a photo of my uncle, my dad, my grandpa, and a family friend, and this is actually like the almost first deer camp that I heard about growing up. Always hearing stories about like my dad and uncles and family going out, and it really got me into it. And I remember sitting there waiting for them to get home every day, just wondering what they got. So that being said, this is my Pennsylvania buck I got over, I believe it was Clarion County, Pennsylvania. I think back in 2016, maybe sooner than that, not too sure. Not too great, just an 8-point. A couple of deadheads I found. This monster here I actually found one day when I was looking for mushrooms. We just painted him up, threw the Exodus logo on there, and he's probably one of the biggest deer I've even seen. Unfortunately, he was a roadkill. And this is last year's deer camp. Photo I edited myself, but just kind of sticking with the deer camp. Started my own, and me and my buddies go out every year. My brother, buddy Phil, Brando, me, Kaiser, and Parker, and we get at it every year. Thankfully, the past 2 years, I was able to harvest a doe on each of those trips. So that's pretty cool. My only mount I have done is this one here. This is actually my first buck. I believe I killed him in January of 2011, muzzleloader season during a deer drive. Just total dumb luck. Him and another nice buck kicked up off this one ridge, and I actually missed a spike a little bit earlier in that hunt, and my dad handed me his muzzleloader because these ones came right up behind it. I was able to shoot him with my dad's muzzleloader, which was really, really special. Kind of going this way, we got some hides all throughout my office. We got a skunk here. This skunk actually sprayed me, so I guess you can call it revenge. And then we got my pieces of paper that make I more smarter: associate's degree in forest management and wildlife management, prescribed fire, wildlife rehabilitation, nuisance wildlife, and we got a muskrat down here, my dog Atlas. I got another photo of my girlfriend Emily. That's real nice. That's really all I got. Let's go see what Lucas has got.
Oh, what's going on, guys? Sorry, I was just finishing up an edit here. Name's Lucas. I'm the digital media specialist here at Exodus. Of course, they save the best for last, with all the big Pennsylvania bucks. We'll start right here. So this is an 8-point. I actually did not shoot this buck personally. Back in high school, I grew up in a small town. Everyone knew everybody, and my grandfather was the only one in town with an archery shop. So he got a call the one day from the one cop saying, "Hey, somebody hit an 8-point. Do you guys want it? I'm about to dispatch it." And we figured, it just got hit by a car or something. Figured we'd have a little bit of a mess on our hands. So we start processing it, and this thing looks like it's just pristine, like it just kind of sat there. So the further and further we get into it, we realize that the only thing wrong with the deer was he popped his back hip out of place. So we got a whole deer plus the rack, basically because he probably slipped and fell and popped his hip out of place. So the next one here, this giant, this is my first ever buck that I shot. Both these bucks actually the only two bucks that I've shot. They both were with archery. So this one was back in high school. I was sitting on an apple orchard that a family friend owned. He walked down the ridge, walked past my buddy. My buddy shot with a crossbow and missed at 30 yards. So he came sprinting right back, in front of me. I grunted. He stopped at 10 yards, first buck ever. I'm up in the tree shaking like a leaf. So I jerked the shot. When I jerked it forward, and instead of hitting him in the chest,
put it right through the jugular, and he made it about 50 feet before he face planted in the field. This next one here, this mainframe 8 with this kicker, that's when I was out of college. I was working a full-time sales job, 60, 70 hours a week. And I had one day, I remember, like the last week of October, where it was an afternoon, didn't have any appointments, and there was a cold front getting ready to come in. So I figured, why not? I'll go sit. 20 minutes in, doe comes past my stand with him following probably about, 5 minutes behind. He went up into the food plot instead of cutting down towards me. Kind of watched him up in the food plot. They did circles. She came out, and instead of going back the trail that they came out of, she took a left, walked 15 yards in front of me. So 10 minutes later, he followed suit. I had my brother's crossbow at that point, because I just didn't have time to shoot, and I didn't, want to risk not being in good shooting shape and potentially wounding a deer. Turns out I would have been fine anyways, because I shot him broadside at like 15 yards. So this shed is actually older than I am. My grandfather found this shed in the early 90s up at our hunting cabin. My family's had a hunting cabin up in the Allegheny National Forest for going on 66 years this fall. So these genetics are super, super strong up there. He's seen deer with this split left G2 and a kicker coming off the right G2 up there since the 80s. And actually had a run-in back in college with an offspring of this deer. So I went up to camp, climbed in the stand. It was like, I want to say 3rd week of October, so scrape week. Heard something grunt behind me because I was down in a big creek bottom. Heard him sprinting in, so I hurry up, reached my left, grabbed the bow, because I didn't expect him to come in from this way. By the time I swing around to take a look, he's already standing 20 yards right there, looking right up at me in the tree stand. After he walked off, I crawled out of the tree stand. I was never, so mad, so disappointed ever in my life. It was like, 9:30 in the morning. A couple pictures here on my screen that, really mean something to me. So this right here, this is my grandfather. He's the one that's he did mentor me into the outdoors. We're also really big into fly fishing. When I took this picture, I was trying to figure out what to caption it, and he captioned it for me, because right after I snapped this picture, he said, I got to put the box in the light. I can't see shit anymore. So the title of that picture is Can't See Shit. This one here, speaking of fly fishing, this is my biggest steelhead to date. So this is 29 1/8 inches, just very close to that 30-inch Fish Ohio mark. Then to finish up here, kind of my little shrine here. So this is for my friends back home, Ethan and Abe. Unfortunately, we lost both of them within the past 12 months. I just want to finish up saying something like, guys, if you're struggling with something, go talk to somebody.